The first thing I noticed was not the hair in the sink. It was the narrow stripe of scalp running across the top of the woman's head. She had arrived carrying a small paper bag filled with expensive shampoos, thickening treatments, scalp oils, and supplements. She placed them on my work table one by one and told me she had spent nearly a year trying to stop what she believed was rapid hair loss. But when I examined her hair beneath the soft daylight from the studio window, I saw something unexpected. Her overall density was better than she thought. The real problem was that nearly every part of her morning routine was separating, flattening, stretching, or weighing down the hair she still had. 40 minutes later, without cutting a single strand or adding extensions, the exposed line looked narrower, the crown appeared fuller, and the shape around her face looked softer. Nothing had grown back. We had simply stopped styling her hair in ways that made it look thinner. My name is Judith Hale. I am 68 years old, and for more than 3 decades I worked as a hairstylist and salon educator in Western North Carolina. These days, I see a small number of clients in a quiet studio behind my home, where the shelves hold mannequin heads, old training books, wide-tooth combs, round brushes, and photographs from years of transformations. Most of the women who come through that door are not asking for a fashionable new identity. They want something more personal. They want to recognize themselves again. Many tell me that their hair changed after menopause. It became finer, drier, less predictable, and slower to recover from damage. Those changes can be real. Hormonal shifts and aging can reduce density, shorten growth cycles, and cause individual strands to become smaller in diameter. However, genuine biological change is only part of what the mirror shows. The way mature hair is parted, brushed, dried, handled while wet, and coated with products can dramatically affect how much scalp is visible and how much volume survives through the day. That distinction matters because styling habits can be changed immediately. But before we begin, I need to make one thing clear. Styling advice cannot diagnose a medical condition. Sudden shedding, bald patches, scalp pain, redness, severe itching, or a rapidly widening part deserve attention from a qualified physician or dermatologist. Hair loss can be connected to thyroid problems, nutritional deficiencies, medication effects, autoimmune conditions, illness, stress, or other causes that should not be ignored. If the change has been gradual and your hair simply looks flatter, weaker, or more transparent than it once did, the 5 adjustments I am about to show you may help you use the hair you have much more effectively. The first place I usually look is the part. Walk into your bathroom and notice where your hair separates naturally. Then ask yourself how long you have worn it in that exact position. 5 years? 15? Perhaps since your children were young? Hair develops memory. When it is divided along the same line every morning, the strands on both sides repeatedly settle away from that opening. Over time, the roots become trained to fall in opposite directions, making the exposed scalp appear more obvious. Think of a curtain that has hung in the same position for decades. Even when you release it, the fabric still wants to return to its old folds. The solution is not to drag your part dramatically from one side of your head to the other. A severe change may feel unnatural and can create another flat section. Instead, move the line slightly. Use the end of a comb or your fingertip to shift the part about 1/4 to 1/2 inch. Try a soft diagonal rather than a ruler straight line. On another day, move it back slightly. Some women alternate between 2 nearby positions every few days. When hair is redirected against its usual fall, the roots often lift automatically. That small resistance creates height without teasing, heavy spray, or complicated tools. A retired school secretary named Anne once came to my studio convinced that the crown of her head had become almost bare. She had worn the same centered part since the early 1980s. Under the inspection light, the density beside the part was reasonable, but the hair had been trained away from the center so consistently that the opening looked much wider than it needed to. I moved the line slightly off-center, made it irregular rather than perfectly straight, and lifted the roots with my fingers. The change took less than 2 minutes, but that was not the detail that changed everything. Anne had also been brushing every strand tightly away from her face. This is the second habit I want you to examine. Many women were taught that a polished hairstyle should be perfectly controlled. No loose strands, no softness at the temples. Everything brushed back and secured firmly. That approach may feel tidy, but on fine, mature hair, it can expose the exact areas you would prefer to soften. When hair is pulled straight backward, the scalp becomes visible along the front hairline and temples. The roots are pressed flat, and the face loses the gentle framing that can make a hairstyle appear fuller and more balanced. Repeated tension can also contribute to breakage and, in some people, traction-related hair loss. A style should never cause soreness, headaches, or a pulling sensation around the hairline. Here is a gentler method. Before arranging your hair, brush or comb it loosely forward toward your face. This releases the roots from the backward position in which they may have dried or slept. Then use your fingers to guide the hair into place. Fingers create separation and movement. A brush often gathers fine hair into one smooth sheet, which can make it look smaller. Leave a few soft pieces near the temples or cheekbones. They do not have to hang untidily. A light curve around the face can disguise sparse areas, soften the forehead, and create the impression of greater density. For a ponytail or low bun, avoid pulling the front section as tightly as possible. Secure the style comfortably, then use your fingertips to lift tiny sections around the crown. The result should feel supported, not stretched. Choose soft fabric ties, covered elastics, or gentle clips rather than narrow bands that grip the same strands every day. And vary the placement. A low, loose twist one day and a soft half-up style another day distributes tension instead of punishing one area repeatedly. The real mistake, however, may occur before you even begin styling. It often happens immediately after the shower. Wet hair does not behave like dry hair. Water causes the strand to swell and temporarily changes its physical properties. In this condition, hair can stretch more easily and may be more vulnerable to breakage, especially if it has become fine, porous, chemically treated, or dry with age. Imagine taking a delicate wet thread, catching it in a knot, and pulling from the top with a stiff brush. The force travels through the entire strand before it reaches the tangle. That is why you may hear snapping or find short broken pieces around the sink, even when the hair is not falling from the root. After washing, do not rub your hair aggressively with a rough towel. Blot it gently with a soft towel or absorbent hair wrap. Press out the excess water instead of twisting the hair into a tight bundle. If you use conditioner, begin detangling while the conditioner is still providing slip. Start with your fingers. Separate the largest knots carefully without pulling. Then use a wide tooth comb beginning at the ends. Hold the section several inches above the area you are detangling so the pulling force does not travel directly to the scalp. Once the ends move freely, work slightly higher. Continue in small sections until you reach the roots. Never place the comb at the crown and drag it through every knot in one long motion. A woman named Louise demonstrated this problem perfectly. She believed her hair was shedding heavily because she found a large collection of strands in her brush each morning. When I watched her routine, I saw that she was using a densely packed paddle brush on soaking wet hair. The brush became trapped near the ends, and she pulled harder until it broke through. Some of the strands had naturally shed, but many were snapping somewhere along their length. We could see short pieces of different sizes rather than complete strands with the root end attached. She changed to finger detangling, a wide tooth comb, and gentle blotting. Within several weeks, she reported far less hair collecting in the brush and fewer broken pieces around her shoulders. Now we come to the step that determines whether your roots stand up or collapse before breakfast is finished. The direction of your dryer. Most people hold the dryer above the head and point the nozzle straight down. That direction can help smooth the outer surface of longer hair, but when it is used from the beginning on fine roots, it presses the hair in the same direction gravity is already pulling it. The roots dry flat against the scalp, and once they are completely dry in that position, they resist lifting later. A volumizing product cannot do much if hot air has already molded the roots downward. Root lift must be created while the roots are drying. If it is comfortable for your neck and balance, tilt your head forward slightly and direct the air toward the underside of the roots. You do not need to hang completely upside down. Even a modest angle can help. Keep the dryer moving and use a comfortable heat setting. Mature hair is often more vulnerable to dryness, so high heat held in one place is unnecessary and potentially damaging. Use your fingers to lift and separate the roots as you dry. Aim the airflow into the base of each section rather than pressing it down from above. For anyone who becomes dizzy or has neck, shoulder, blood pressure, or balance concerns, remain upright. Divide the hair into sections. Lift each section away from the scalp with your fingers or a vented brush and dry underneath it. Concentrate on the crown, the area around the part, and the back of the head where hair commonly settles flat. Once the roots are dry and holding some lift, you can turn the nozzle downward along the mid-lengths and ends to smooth the surface. The order is important. Lift first, smooth second. If you smooth everything first, the roots may never recover. But before you try this, there is one warning you need to hear. Do not hold a hot dryer close to the scalp while keeping it motionless. Use moderate heat, maintain distance, and keep the air moving. Heat should shape the hair, not scorch the scalp or make the strands feel brittle. At this point, you may have changed the part, reduced tension, handled the wet hair gently, and dried the roots correctly. Yet the result can still collapse within an hour. That usually brings us to the most common hidden problem in my studio. Too much product is being placed too close to the scalp. Fine hair does not need the same quantity of serum, cream, oil, or leave-in conditioner as coarse or very thick hair. A portion that looks small in your palm may still coat hundreds of delicate strands. When smoothing products are spread from the roots to the tips, they add weight at the exact place where you need freedom and movement. The scalp may begin to look oily, the strands group together, and small gaps become more visible. This does not necessarily mean the product is bad. It may simply be applied in the wrong location or in an excessive amount. For most smoothing serums, oils, creams, and leave-in conditioners, begin with a very small quantity. Rub it thoroughly between your palms so it becomes a thin film rather than a concentrated blob. Apply it first to the driest ends, then lightly touch the mid-lengths with whatever remains on your hands. Stop before reaching the roots. You can always add another tiny amount. Removing too much product usually requires washing again. The main exceptions are products specifically designed for root lift, such as certain lightweight mousses, volumizing sprays, or powders. Even then, use them sparingly and follow the manufacturer's instructions. More product does not automatically create more volume. Excess can leave the roots sticky, stiff, dull, or dirty looking. When testing a new product, change only one thing at a time. Otherwise, you will not know what helped or what caused buildup. This is where the method becomes far more powerful, because the 5 habits work together. A flexible part reduces unnecessary scalp exposure. Softer styling protects the hairline and creates facial framing. Gentle detangling preserves fragile length. Upward airflow builds root separation. Careful product placement keeps that lift from being crushed. None of these steps creates new follicles. What they do is improve the arrangement, condition, and visible coverage of the hair that is already present. Picture 100 thick cords beside 100 very fine threads. The number may be identical, but the thicker material occupies more space. As people age, individual hairs may become finer, so even a modest reduction in strand diameter can make the scalp appear more noticeable. That is why mature hair often benefits from separation and movement. When every fine strand is pressed into a flat, oily sheet, the hair covers less visible space. When the roots are lifted and the strands remain clean and lightly separated, the same hair can create a much fuller silhouette. Several months ago, a 69-year-old widow named Carol came to see me before her granddaughter's wedding. She had avoided photographs for years because she disliked the way overhead lighting revealed her scalp. Her routine included every mistake we have discussed. She wore one fixed part, brushed her hair tightly backward, dragged a brush through it after showering, dried it downward, and finished by spreading a shine oil from the scalp to the ends. We did not promise regrowth. We simply redesigned her routine. I shifted her part into a soft diagonal. We left a gentle piece near each temple. I showed her how to support the hair while detangling the ends. We dried the crown in lifted sections and used 1 drop of serum only on the final inch of the hair. When she looked into the mirror, she did not say she looked 20 years younger. She said something far more believable. She said, "That looks like my hair again." 2 weeks later, she sent me a photograph from the wedding. Her hair was not enormous or artificially stiff. It looked soft, healthy, and naturally full enough that she no longer felt the need to tilt her head away from the camera. That is a reasonable goal. Do not expect one morning routine to reverse years of hormonal change, breakage, or genuine hair loss. Give the hair time to respond to gentler treatment. Take photographs in the same room, under the same lighting, from the same angle. Compare the results after 2 to 4 weeks rather than judging every hour in the mirror. Here is the routine I want you to try tomorrow. Before styling, examine your part and move it slightly if it has remained fixed for years. Release the roots by bringing the hair forward before arranging it. Detangle damp hair from the ends upward with your fingers or a wide-tooth comb. Dry the roots in a lifted position before smoothing the lengths. Keep heavy or oily products away from the scalp, unless the product was specifically formulated for root use. Avoid tight daily styles, aggressive towel rubbing, high heat held in one spot, forceful brushing through wet knots, and the belief that more product must produce a better result. If you notice sudden shedding, bald patches, scalp inflammation, rapid recession, or a major change following illness or medication, seek professional medical advice rather than trying to hide the problem with styling. But when the issue is gradual flattening, fragile strands, visible part lines, and loss of movement, these changes may help your hair appear softer, healthier, and noticeably fuller without expensive treatments. Which of these 5 habits have you been doing most often without realizing how it affected your hair? Subscribe for more practical guidance for mature hair because in the next video, I will show you how to tell whether a haircut is creating fullness at the crown or quietly removing the volume you are trying to keep.